So this is the part 2 of our lecture. Let's continue. So our skin is classified either thick or thin skin. And the term thick or thin skin would refer to the epidermis only. Okay, this portion. And this should not be used when total skin thickness is considered. Okay, but only the epidermal portion. So what are the difference between these two types of skin? For thick skin, this consists of all the 5 epithelial strata, no? From your stratum basale or germinativum all the way up to your stratum corneum. Kompleto siya ng 5 layers, no? Or 5 strata. And what is also noted with thick skin is that the stratum corneum is thicker compared to your thin skin. It has many layers of skin. And these are found in this skin is found in areas subject to pressure or friction, no? For example, your palms, your soles, your feet, fingertips. So you see, yung quality ng skin you have in these areas. They are usually thick. While for your thin skin, what is unique with your thin skin is that it is more flexible. And this covers the rest of our body. Okay? So, mas marami siyang coverage compared to our thick skin. Ngayon, this certain stratum, which is your stratum lucidum, is not found in thin skin. No? They are absent. And they also have fewer layers of cells. So, for example, itong stratum granulosum mo na layer, normally, it would consist of 3 to 5 layers. But in your thin skin, stratum granulosum only has 1 or 2 layers. And what is so unique also in this one is that hair is found only in thin skin, no? So, wala siya sa thick skin. That's why your palm, your soles, your finger pads have no hair. Okay? Ito naman siyang, since this refers to your epidermal layer, no? This varies in thickness, okay? For example, yung inyong eyelids, which is only 0.5 millimeter in thickness, compared mo naman sa 5 millimeter thickness of your back and shoulders. So, it is actually ang nagva-vary talaga most of the time with regards to thickness, no, is the dermal layer, no, sa dermis. For example, siya yung nagko-contribute to the total thickness of the skin. Okay? For example, yung back mo, although the skin of your back is thin, compared to the palm of your hand, no, which is thick, pero mas makapal pa rin yung skin ng back. Why? Because the skin of the back, ang dermal layer niya is more thick than that of your palms and soles, no? So, kahit pa na thick skin considered si palm and sole, but for the entire thickness, mas makapal pa rin yung skin ng back, even if it is a thin skin. Because the dermal layer of your back, no, is thicker than the dermal layer present in your palms and soles. So here, we will see ano naman ang similarities. Anong meron for both thin and thick skin. So, there is an area called callus, no? So, callus, hubal. We always hear this word, callus. This is where in the stratum corneum of your epidermis increases in thickness, no? These are usually formed in those areas that are subject to friction or pressure. Okay, for example, You always write a lot, no? Then you will see at the side of your middle finger, no? Na meron siyang kubal or callus formation. Okay? This thickness, no? This increased number of cell layers adds protection in that area because that area is more exposed to mechanical stress. Kaya yan, merong mga callus. Then there's also a skin over bony prominences. They develop cone-shaped structure. Now they are called corn naman. The base of the cone is at the surface, but the apex extends deep into the dermis. No? So, medyo makapal rin siya. However, if you apply pressure on the corn, no, this might be quite painful. Okay? Ito naman yung mga usually you see them in your elbows, kung saan yung may mga bony prominences. There are three factors that determine a person's skin color. First is yung pigments in the skin, yung blood circulation in the skin, and the thickness of this stratum, which is your stratum corneum. Okay, remember this one. So what is responsible for the pigment of the skin? It is what we call our melanin. These are group of pigments that are responsible for skin, hair, and eye color. What does your melanin do? It has a lot of functions, no? It provides protection against ultraviolet light from the sun, and this is why our skin has the capability to protect us from the ultraviolet rays. It's because of the melanin. And large amounts of melanin are found in freckles, moles, nipples, areola of the breast, axilla, and the genitalia. That's why these areas are darker in color. While there are also areas with less amounts of melanin, such as your lips, palms of the hands, and soles of the feet. So you see these are lighter compared to these areas of the skin. Your melanin is produced by certain cells called your melanocytes. These are irregularly shaped cells with many long processes that extend between the keratinocytes of your stratum basale and stratum spinosum. So in this picture, no, ito yung stratum basale mo. Your melanocytes are this one. It has long processes, no, and they are irregular in shape. And your melanocytes produce and package melanin into vesicles. These vesicles are called your melanosomes. So yung mga maliliit na vesicles that you see in your melanocytes, those are your melanosomes. Your melanosomes move, no? They move into cell processes. Kaya meron sila dito, meron sila dyan. Processes of your melanocytes, no? They move. Now, your keratinocytes, they will phagocytize, no? When you say phagocytize, they will eat up the processes of your melanocyte cells, no? Kaya yung ibang processes, no? They are inside now your keratinocytes. So that's why your keratinocytes acquire now your melanosomes. They are now inside your keratinocytes. So don't be confused. You will see your keratinocytes contain melanin, no, and melanosomes, but they do not produce it, no. Your keratinocytes do not produce it. They only eat the processes of your melanocytes. The one that produce your melanin is actually your melanocytes. Ito sila. Okay? Now, your melanin production is determined by two factors, no? These are your genetic factors and your exposure to light and hormone. Your genetic factors, this is the one that is mainly responsible for the variation in skin color among different races and among different people of the same race. For example, Filipinos, we are darker than the Western people. And among Filipinos, meron pa talagang variations, no, with regarding sa different um, interracial uh, people. For example, Ilocanos would have more dark skin, no? Yung mga Ilonggos natin, usually they are light skinned. So, this one is responsible for that, yung genetic factors. Okay, take note that the number of melanocytes in the skin, no, for all humans, kahit anong race pa yan, is relatively the same. Meron lang talagang variation because of several major factors. Okay, and these are the factors here. You have the types of melanin produced, amount of melanin produced, the size of your melanosomes, your number of melanosomes, and distribution of melanosomes. Although many genes are responsible for skin color, a single mutation, no, can prevent manufacture of melanin, no, resulting to different kinds of skin condition. Here we have albinism, which is a condition wherein there is uh, deficiency or absence of pigment in the skin, hair, and irises of the eyes. Kaya they look white, no? The problem with albinism, this is a recessive trait, no? They have the inability to produce this enzyme called your tyrosinase. This tyrosinase are responsible for the production of your melanin. Ngayon, wala sila nitong enzyme. That's why they cannot produce melanin, and there's the loss of pigment because of that. Yung mga individuals naman who are able to produce melanin, they get, no, such as us, if we get exposed to ultraviolet light, for example, we go to the beach, no, we walk under the heat of the sun, without any protection or umbrella, this results to darkening of the melanin that is already present in our skin. Okay, and that exposure to ultraviolet light would actually more stimulate melanin production, resulting in a tan skin. Then there's also a condition, for example, that would increase melanin production, no? Halimbawa, during pregnancy. During pregnancy, the mother is exposed to a lot of hormones, no? For example, your estrogen and melanocyte-stimulating hormone. These hormones increase melanin production. That's why in pregnant women, you would see that there is darkening of the nipples, areola, and genitalia, no? Manglagom ni siya ng mga areas. Also, there is what we call mask of pregnancy. Have you seen a pregnant woman, no, na nitum ang cheekbones, ang forehead, ang chest, okay? That's why you have this term called mask of pregnancy. Now, this brown discoloration naman across your abdomen, this is what you call a linea nigra, no? Linea nigra is also hormonal by nature. This is a dark line of pigmentation that appear on the midline of the abdomen of a pregnant woman. Usually, once the pregnancy ends, no, kapag nanganak na si mother, the hormone will also uh, return back to its normal amount. Okay, and so normally all these dark discolorations you see in a pregnant woman would subside, no? After all the hormones have subsided, no? After pregnancy. There are also certain diseases that cause increased secretion of a certain hormone called your ACTH, or that's your adrenocorticotropic hormone. And meron ding mga diseases or conditions that increase your melanocyte stimulating hormone, or your MSH. Example of this disease is your Addison's disease, no? Yung Addison's disease, if you see a person or a patient with Addison's disease, marami yan siyang discoloration. For example, in this picture, inside the oral mucosa, there are dark or grayish discoloration. Yung iba meron sa arms, sa cheeks, no? Mga darker discolorations in Addison's disease. Now your change in blood flow can also affect the color of your skin, no? Usually, itong change in blood flow, hindi siya long-lasting. And usually, they disappear in few minutes or hours. Pero merong mga conditions naman that would take longer, no? Example ng ganitong conditions are your erythema and cyanosis. Okay, let's talk about erythema first. This is when the skin turns reddish, no, in color. That means the amount of blood flow through these areas, yung mga red areas, is high or increased, no? Pwede siyang inflammation, pwede siyang sunburn, pwede ring allergic reactions or insect bites, no? They produce this certain skin color, what you call erythema. Now, exposure to extremes of temperature, pwedeng exposure to cold, no? Can cause blushing or flushing, no? Pwede din yung emotional factor kung sobrang galit ka or you feel so hot under the sun, no? You will be flushed. You will look flushed and look reddish, okay? Kung ang erythema is an increase in blood flow, your cyanosis naman signifies a decrease in blood flow, no? Usually, these people, you can see in people with shock, no? That means a decrease in the blood volume. Pwede ring decrease in the blood oxygen content, no? So, your cyanosis is the bluish discoloration of your skin color. You will see this sa mga babies who experience yung mga convulsions, seizures, no? They usually have a bluish or cyanosis during an episode of seizure or convulsions. So, some of them naman, no? Yung mga may heart problem, may mga valvular, heart valve problems, they are also cyanotic. That is because of the problem in the oxygen and blood flow. Also, yung mga asthmatic, when their airways are closed, then there's less oxygen coming in, no? Yun, they also appear pale and blue, no? That is very alarming, no? If I see a patient coming in my hospital with this color, no? It's very alarming and it needs immediate intervention, okay? There's another condition which is called your carotenemia. Okay, this comes from excess intake of carotene. Carotene is a lipid-soluble yellow pigment found in plants. For example, your carrots and corn. We normally ingest those vegetables. They are a good source of vitamin A. But when large amounts of carotene are consumed, then the excess carotene accumulates in the stratum corneum. Also in your adipocytes or fat tissues, they can be deposited. Okay? And they cause the skin to develop a yellowish tint. Okay? However, no, I have a friend in high school. She likes to eat those kind of vegetables, and she actually developed the condition of carotenemia. But as you decrease your intake of such vegetable, now the yellowish tint would slowly disappear also. Okay. The location of the pigments and other substances in the skin also affects the color produced. So let's discuss skin cancer, no? Skin cancer is the most common type of cancer. Okay? Most common type kasi siya din naman yung pinakamalaking organ in the body, and probably our skin is the one that is usually having constant exposure, no, to mga insults, okay? The most common cause of your skin cancer is your ultraviolet radiation in sunlight. These can be long-term or intense exposure, especially those who are over 50 years old, who have yung mga 50 years old na may history of exposure to the sun, no? And have engaged in repeated, pwedeng recreational, no? Palaging mahilig magbabad sa init ng araw, or pwedeng occupational exposure, yung mga for example, yung ating mga traffic rules enforcer, or yung uh, power industry, no, ng mga engineers who constantly are under the heat of the sun. And those who have experienced sunburn, no, they are an increased risk for developing skin cancer. Okay, what does your UV does to your skin? Your UV radiation, they damage the genes, no, the DNA in your epidermal cells. Once they are damaged, they produce mutations. Now, if we have a mechanism to repair mga gene mutations. Now, however, if this certain mutation is not repaired, then this is passed on to the daughter cells. So as they divide, no, as our epidermal cells divide during mitosis, they pass on the mutated genes. Okay, and so it becomes uncontrolled cell division. That's when skin cancer results. Now, there are also other causes of your skin cancer, pwedeng certain exposure to chemicals, okay? Yung mga X-rays, no? Depression of the immune system, inflammation, no? Especially yung constant and repeated inflammation can slowly develop to skin cancers. Pwede din siyang genetics, no? Or inherited. And those who have fair skin compared to dark skin, fair skin have higher risk for developing skin cancer because the amount of melanin is actually protective to our skin, no? That's why if you are fair skinned, you have less melanin, and that means an increased risk of developing skin cancer compared to those who have dark skin. Mhm. Now, most skin cancers, they develop on parts of the body that are frequently exposed to the sunlight. For example, yung face, yung neck, ears, yung dorsum of the forearm and hand. So you have to be careful, and you have to wear protective lotions, no, or sunblock, so that you can um, protect yourself, no, and lessen the risk of skin cancer. So there are three types of skin cancer. You have your basal cell carcinoma, your squamous cell carcinoma, and your melanoma. So let's discuss basal cell carcinoma first. These are the most common type of skin cancer, and they affect cells in your stratum basale, no, or your stratum germinativum. They often have varied appearance, no? Some are open sores that bleed or ooze or crust for several weeks. Yung iba parang reddish patches lang like this. They look shiny, pearly, or translucent bumps, or scar-like areas of shiny, taut skin, no? And usually removal or destruction of the tumor would most of the time cure this type of skin cancer. Now, you also have your second type, which is your squamous cell carcinoma, and this is the second most common. They affect naman yung stratum spinosum, no? Cells in the stratum spinosum. And also, they appear wart-like growth, pwede ring persistent scaly red patch or an open sore, or an elevated growth with a central depression. Okay? Usually, these lesions may bleed, And also, same with your basal cell, removal or destruction of the tumor would cure this type of cancer. The third type, which is your melanoma, and is the most common, no, the least common, but the most deadly. It affects now your melanocytes. Because they arise from melanocytes, most of the melanomas appear black or brown. Kasi yung melanin natin is the reason for the pigmentation of the skin. No? So they appear black or brown. But occasionally, this melanoma would stop producing melanin, and sometimes they appear colored, skin colored, pink, red, or purple. About 40% of them are developed in pre-existing moles. So, ingat kayo sa inyong mga moles, no? You should check if there are unusualities with the size, the characteristic, no? Itsura ng moles, no? Or alum. The treatment of melanoma is if it's confined to the layer of your epidermis, madali siyang i-treat, no? Almost always successful ang treatment. However, if it starts to spread towards the dermis, no, to the deeper layers of your skin, and then it spreads out or metastasizes to other parts of the body, it is difficult to treat and can be deadly. So, early detection and treatment of melanoma before it metastasizes, like any other cancer, can prevent death. It can be detected by routine examination of the skin and application of the rule ABCDE rule. No? We call it ABCDE. These are the signs of melanoma. Okay? Let's say A stands for asymmetry. One side of the lesion does not match the other side. Okay? So the two halves of the mole look different. No? Magkaiba sila on either sides. Yan siya. If you see that sign, probably a sign of melanoma. Yung letter B naman, it has border irregularity. So the edges are ragged, notched, or blurred, no? Look at this picture here. Yung border niya poorly defined. Normally, yung mole mo is bilog na bilog, di ba? Perfect circle. Yung iba with smooth borders, okay? With melanoma, it is irregular in borders. Yung letter C stands for color. Because pigmentation is not uniform. So, the color varies from an area to another. Yung isa may light, yung isa may darker, almost black, yung isa parang purple. Yung isang side with parang purple in color, no? So, not uniform ang color. Yung letter D mo is diameter. It's more than 6 millimeter wide. So, it's bigger than a pencil eraser. Usually, your mole natin would only be just as small as this pointer, no, that I have, or even smaller. Yung E naman is what you call your evolving lesion. So, it changes over time. It changes over time with its size, no? It can grow bigger very fast. The shape changes. It can elevate, no? Or grow, or the color may change. They may bleed, crust, itch, or become tender. Hmm? So what can we do to prevent skin cancer? We should limit exposure to the sun. And when we have an exposure to the sun, we should use broad spectrum sunscreens, no, against UVB and UVA. I will explain to you later what is UVB, no, and UVA. And the recommended SPF or sun protection factor should be at least 15, no? SPF 15 dapat yung ating mga sunscreen at least, okay? So there are two types of UV radiation that plays a role in developing skin cancer. Yung ultraviolet beam mo, radiation is the main cause for basal and squamous cell carcinomas and a significant cause of melanoma. It's also the most potent for causing sunburn. Yung UVA mo or your ultraviolet radiation A is also contributes, no, to skin cancer development, especially yung melanoma. It can also cause wrinkling and leathering of the skin because UVA can penetrate deep into the dermis.